Call meeting order, roll call.
Okay, Mayor Westgard,
Yes.
Stankin,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Do we have anybody for public forum? Please,
Want to stand up?
if you will, please.
Okay. Well, I'm Lisa Pudens, for those that don't know who I am. I plan on building a new home in Lakeview, and I've recently learned that some of the council members are trying to pass a new detailed regulation code or codes as to how someone is to build their home or how it's supposed to look. We live in a small residential non-gated community, and I find this unappealing to the younger generation or population, which includes me. I want to feel like my home is my home and live comfortable in my home inside and out. And I do not want to feel old or embarrassed living in a house that replicates a home that was popular in the 1980s by what I've heard in the community. And I know it's 2020, and this younger population is filled with lots of great and tasteful ideas for our new homes. That's what I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, consent agenda, any additions? Motion to approve,
I'll move.
second,
I'll second.
roll call.
Stankin,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing on the contract and estimate costs for the library edition. Is there any public input?
No, I had received no public input. This officially is a public hearing on the plans and specifications, and so this is, that process that we used, working with a structural engineer and then a different engineer for the electrical and mechanical. So far that's come together fine through the bid process, and we'll see that we got what we think is favorable bid, and we'll be ready to award the bid tonight. We did have 5 addendums that went out during our bid process of items that the contractors had identified as needing some explanation. So when we get that question from any of them, we turn around with the answer and get it out to everybody. So it actually worked out pretty well.
We'll close the public hearing. Resolution 2011 is the estimate cost for the library edition project.
Yeah, this is just the resolution to formally approve the plans and specs and form a contract, but approve the plan documents.
We have that motion?
I'll make it.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Thank you.
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Okay, resolution 2012 is awarding a contract to Fine.
yeah,
Little bit.
so, yeah, we do feel pretty good about this. You see in the packet, see we got 3 bids, range from 309,000 to 355. Feel real good about that bid from Linen, and also good about the company. Solid company. Scott Linen is the owner, and they're headquartered out of Harlan, but he does have they do have a lake place here, and then they had actually bought Bobby Terrell's house then.
He's one of the owners for Bowman.
Yep, and yep. So anyway, feel real good about that. Would recommend that we would award that bid to him.
Do you have that motion?
I'll
I
make it.
make a motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Tom,
Yes.
Stankin,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Okay, Jennifer wants to add on to the entryway of the bar. Building permit?
Yeah, this actually so this is the little metal addition, metal enclosure on the east side of the building on Vine Street. The permit actually, what it does is allows her to raise the roof height, and then expands that north wall out basically to be in line with the north wall of her building. So building permit wise, that's all it does, but you're going to make some major changes to the kitchen then, and realignment of stuff in the kitchen, and this allows for some additional space, which will actually be allotted inside the kitchen, and then the refrigeration units and that type of stuff will be back in this newly constructed area. Anyway, it's recommended for approval.
Is there a motion to approve the building permit? Second,
I'll second it.
roll call.
Can I ask a question first?
Yes,
Does it meet all code and setbacks?
This is that deal about us, it's in the business commercial zone, so there's no setback. And this is that deal again where it was actually constructed on city right of way, and we have that lease arrangement with her, for the building to be on the city right of way. So yes, everything's good.
Okay.
okay, roll call.
Reese,
Yes.
Stankham,
Yes.
Toms.
Yes.
Okay, this is a second reading of ordinance 506, amending the code for compliance, certificate of compliance.
Yeah, this would be the, when the project is complete, then we'd have a building inspector go out there and perform that final inspection, assuring that the structure is built according to what the initial permit was issued for, and then upon the issuance of this zoning compliance, then the structure is able to be used. This would be a second reading of the ordinance.
So motion to go to 506? You did that, Vicky?
Yep.
Second?
Yep.
Roll call.
Yes.
Did you second, Terry?
Yes.
Okay, Toms,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 507 is the first reading. This is where we're gonna put siding on the smaller buildings, square feet.
Yeah, so we had that issue about corrugated siding on accessory buildings. And it had previously said that corrugated siding would not be permitted on structures that were less than 144 square feet. And then we wanted to clarify the language in there to get rid of any of the questionable language that was there. Well, so we cleaned up the language in there to know that it applies now specifically to structures now that are 64 square feet. So we have changed that, lowered that down. And so you can think about this as the very small shed ordinance. We talked about dog houses, this type of stuff. You can think about a doghouse ordinance. That corrugated steel would only be permitted on structures that are 64 square feet or less. So 8 by 8. Other than that, yeah, that's the only time when corrugated steel could be used. But let's take a look at the wording of that, because we changed that to 64 square feet, and then the difference in wording is just in that last sentence, where it specifically now says corrugated sheet metal shall not be used on structures greater than 64 square feet. It had just said before corrugated sheet metal shall not be used. That was the questionable language in there that raised some doubts about it. So this, I think, clears that up. And planning and zoning has recommended that for approval.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Toms,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Jim, you wanna talk to us about the north access easement?
Sure. Yeah, requesting easement to access the north side of my land where I plan to build my house and shop. It'll be crossing the city property there by, just off of 4th Street, and I can access the north side of my land there. I guess it would be, what, a 20 foot?
yeah, it's proposed that it would be a 20-foot wide easement there. And the legal definition of it is basically that it's the south half of the 4th Street right-of-way extended. So from the center line of 4th Street, you would extend that westerly, and then it's 20 feet south of the center line of that street extended. So there's a fire hydrant there and a curb intake there. There's a couple things to work around, but it looks like we can make that
Sewer
happen.
line clean out and electrical box, but I think it can make it right between everything.
Jill's okay with not moving that electric box?
Oh,
Show a little enthusiasm there, boy.
Any more questions on the easement? I'd like to have a motion to,
I'll make it. I think, yeah. You all right?
I'll second it.
roll call.
Okay, Reese,
Yes.
Steinkamp,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
All right, so that'll issue that easement there on the north. We've had some discussion about another 5-foot easement, which would be on the east side of this property, or it'd be 5 feet easement on the west 5 feet of the water plant property. Yeah, we had that discussion here last time. Jimmy has since, they've taken out an application then for variance, just seeking that they wouldn't need to meet that side yard setback. So, for now, we'll not pursue things with that east 5-foot variant, or 5-foot easement.
So we're gonna hold off on that, is that what?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna talk about the grain bins at the city shop.
All right, so there's a picture there, it's on page 12. Those are 6 little grain bins down there on city property. And this is 6 of them located south of the main city shop. And they've been there for sure. I don't know, I saw documents renting them out to the stocks in the 70s, so they've been there a long time. And they've been there, I think, quite a while before that, but,
I think there was 12 there total at one time.
oh, really? So we have had a lease agreement with the stocks. The last time that was done was in 2006. And it allows the bins to be there, and in exchange then, they pay us $8 a month per bin. So they pay us $48 per month for the 6 bins. Question now being, Stock Popcorn is no longer in business. They would be the owners of the bins, and they would look to either sell them to the next person who would then have a arrangement with the city about allowing them to be there. So, do you want to allow them to be there, or is now a time to consider taking them out? And with that, though, I know Rich is well interested in there.
Rich, you surely got some input for us.
Well, gee, I don't know, we've rented the bins from the Stock family, Jim and Jan, for, not in the 70s, but probably 25 years, and I had a great arrangement with them, and I rented the ones that used to be out by Dale, and them are gone, and when the last time I rented the bins this fall from Jan and Jim like I usually do, and they said this would probably be the last year, and I should come here to see what you guys were thinking about doing with them. So that's what brings me here. Yeah, that's why I'm here. They're still, we gotta see what you guys
It'd
think.
be nice if we didn't have to tear them down, if we could just pass them off to the next guy.
That's what I was gonna ask you, if you'd rather move them or if you wanna keep doing what,
I'm not moving them. Yeah, but they're still, that's up to them. But, yeah, it's a little complicated with the city, with it being on the city ground and somebody else owning them, I get all of that, but I'm just here to be curious, what you guys think. They're a little bit advantageous to me. They're not critical to my operation, so I'm a little interested and we'll see what you guys got to say.
Bill, what's your thoughts on that with the,
I just told Scott it doesn't make any difference to me.
So they're not really in the way of our operation at all, right? Is that right?
Well, sometimes when they're loading in and out, they're in the way, but that's only for a day or so.
Do we have like a lease agreement year by year with, or is it all?
I'm not sure.
We have had a lease agreement with Stocks. The last time that we had renegotiated that was in '06. And we would do that again. It had since expired, but they continue to pay the rental fee.
Is there a chance that rental fee can go up?
Which it's $8 per
That was
month
me.
right now. I think we,
Those bins are free for everybody else to take them, most generally, so
well,
I'm just being honest.
the thing about that is that if, I'd say they have to have a 1 or 2 year agreement with subject to renewal in case something changes, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to say that's, I don't wanna be locked into something if we decide we need the space, that's one of my concerns, so a long-term deal is a couple-year deal, but, you know, storage, I don't even know what they get for storage.
I
Terry,
don't know either.
well, I'd like to do some calling around, see what you
Probably
guys
Rick
get for
knows.
beds.
Rick probably knows. 3, 5, what is it?
Yeah, it's, you know, you can Google ISU custom rates, it's a dime or so, a bushel
Yeah.
or something like that. It's old bins like that with, you know, not being critical, but I mean, you see, them are,
And pretty small.
yeah. But, I guess I brought the letter in from, again, back to my little bit of interest that I have. The company that I grow seed beans for is, this year they're increasing their experimental varieties, which means you're not gonna go out and plant 10,000 acres of this, you're gonna plant, you know, 100 acres or 80 acres or something like that, and for varietal purity reasons, you know, they all need to go in a small bin, you don't tie up a 10,000 bushel bin with, so, if I
What is
wasn't,
it, 32, 35?
yeah, they're 3,200 bushel, they're standard old government bushel, or government bins,
So
yeah.
how big are they?
3,200 bushel,
3 semi-loads and you're done?
yep,
Yep.
yep.
Well, what if we would instruct the clerk to draw up a 2-year agreement that we revisit every 2 years? Would that-
Well, I guess I'm interested in the ownership situation there. You know what the ownership situation's gonna be, Jeff?
Don't know for sure. We're just, I guess, depends on what you guys wanna,
Right, right.
Because, you know,
if
if
you
we can,
wanna keep
if
them
we
there
can-
or not, you know.
yeah. If we can express our interest in having a 2-year agreement, we need to know who that would be with. That'd be the main thing, as far as who's gonna be the owner.
But if you keep, you know, if you're gonna use them, you know, keep the rent where it is. You know, unless you wanna, you know, more, I don't, you know, it's not a,
Right now, renting them out, it's not worth it to keep them for us. You know, we're barely breaking even.
So they're,
And then paying the rent on the land, and then, also the electrical, you know, the meter
Sure.
fee, so. Yeah, it might be more worth it if we don't have the electrical hooked up there, but, you know, I don't know how much you use it, or, I know there's 3 bins that have floors and fans in them, and then 3 that don't, and
The
I
three
think
guy,
the 3 you use don't
don't have
have.
the electricity, right,
Yeah.
I was gonna say for beans, but I don't need
You
them.
don't need them, right, so.
So, again, what's the city's liability, something goes wrong, somebody gets hurt, somebody goes, since it's on our property?
you know, we do have some exposure. We do require the proof of insurance on that.
I mean, I'm always looking at the worst part of it, but this way is, gives us something to think about.
Sure.
So what, you would take the beds down, you're thinking
If we can't sell them, yeah, we'll probably try to sell them off one by one, or just, have them for scrap, I guess. But, you know, that might be a process for me to get that done too, because I don't really
Is
wanna
there
hire somebody to
cement,
come.
is there cement under there?
Not
I
on
think
my-
under the 3, there might be,
Must be the west
the
three.
3 with the fans might have
You
some.
used to put sand under them with metal under them, like that. Just set them on the ground.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about them west ones, you know, I'm not familiar with those.
I know they moved ours in that time, we bought a couple of them, we started by letting, they moved them home with a tire up the middle with a cable.
Yep, drag it down the road. I don't know what to get for moving bins these days, but
I don't know, I don't know idea.
cement slab and moving it, get kind of spendy. Just go put up a 30,000 bushel bin and be done with it.
I did that last year. We do it every year. Yeah, when Dale said they weren't gonna go away, yeah, they're out there, I said, well, get a little bin. Yeah,
Yeah,
so I did.
it's one of them, it's not hurting anything if they don't do it or do it, so I mean, it's up to us to decide. You know, I guess my feeling is this is the perfect time to do it, to get it cleaned up, and we're cleaning up that property back there, so I'm leaning either way. I mean, you guys, you know, we're still in a lot of gray area, you know, whether they get used yet. He was saying he's gonna use them, I understand that.
I
but-
know, Rich rents them, and then Tom Reeman is the other guy that rents. He puts some popcorn in them, so I don't know, you know, if Tom would be interested in all them, or
Correct.
what.
Yeah, I'm just one interested party, there might be more.
I don't think Tom was interested in moving one off to his home place, but, you know, he might be interested in buying and keeping them, but I haven't talked to him about that, I guess.
But am I hearing, Jimmy, that you don't wanna be the owner?
We don't want to be the owner anymore.
Well, the city don't either, do they? No.
We don't need that.
I guess I'm advising my mother to get rid of them.
Okay.
It's less of a headache for her,
Yes.
when it, you know, it's not making money for her, so why keep them?
Sure, there's been salvage option around.
Vicky, what do you think?
Well, I don't know, I guess I'm trying to understand, so Rich isn't sure if he's gonna buy them yet, but he might buy them?
Based on what you guys, you know, decide if you wanna extend a lease to somebody, that was a starting point for me. Otherwise, it doesn't go to pay to go talk to Jan Stock and find out how much she wants for it until I find out if it's even gonna stay there.
Right.
That's kinda where I'm at.
Yeah, I guess just curious, how did they first come to be on city ground, Jimmy, do you know?
I have no idea. Government bends,
Say all the old documents reference an old government program of some sort.
Charlie Maynard said they bought it, is that the CC camp or something like that? That's how they ended up with the Quonsets. They bought it from the federal government. $75 a piece.
That must've been what, like seventies?
Oh, no.
They sold off a lot of these Bend sites, and then people moved them away, and then each one, every Bend you bought, you just had to pay that. I think it cost me $100 that time to move that Bend from Linton to home. You know, it was not a big deal, I mean, it just.
Well, I wouldn't be in favor of owning the bins, and I guess the leasing the land, I guess if they're not a problem, I don't have a problem with it, but I guess I'd want a time limit, whether it be 2 years or 5 years, something. And maybe a clause for either one of us to be able to get out of it, just in case we did develop any, I mean, I don't see where we're gonna do that, and it doesn't look to me like the map that, you know, even if we did do something with that property over there, which is the old junkyard, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. You know, that I would see that this would be an issue, but I guess you never know.
All I can say is that the bends are all gonna get worse, you know, over time, and at some point in time, you're gonna have to clean them up somewhere. And to me, this would be the perfect time to clean them up. I mean, you know, again, I'm always thinking about the what ifs, and what if somebody gets hurt, what if somebody, you know, on city property or whatever. There's just too many
Well, they'd
things.
have to have their own insurance, you know, anyway, but, just.
Yeah, but you always get drugged into it no matter what. If there's something serious that happens, guess what? They're all gonna come after the deep pockets, so.
So if the council says we want them to be gone, what would happen?
I guess we'll have to put them up for sale and tell them they need to move, and if we can't get them gone, then we'll have to tear them down.
But we don't know who's gonna own them. To even draw up an agreement.
Right. We don't, haven't gotten that far, we just, I guess, wanted to see if you'd be willing to keep them there.
Well, it would require a motion and second by somebody from the council to decide which way we're gonna go.
It sounds to me like the council's, I didn't hear Terry's comment, I guess, but it sounds like the council's willing to lease it for at least another 2 years. So I think it's kind of up to see if Rich is, if that's agreeable with him and if he's going to purchase them. Am I understanding this correctly?
Well, it'll probably take that long to get things straightened out anyway, so, it ain't gonna happen overnight.
Yeah, Jimmy, I can go visit with Jan and Jimmy, and if they don't have any other interested persons, I'd be glad to, that'll give us an opportunity to talk about the purchase price. And then if we can come up with something reasonable, then I can come back and sure, I'll do a couple year, 2, 3. 3 sounds a little better, but I'll, I'm gonna have a little bit of investment on a piece of ground that's never gonna be mine, that's a little risky, so.
Yeah, that's true.
So I ain't gonna get too crazy here, but, we can be reasonable about it.
Well, I'd say the next step, you guys get together, then we can,
So we know who to draw agreement up with.
yeah, we'll.
Yeah, I'll come to the next meeting, we got, what is that, every 2 weeks or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, 17th.
17th.
Oh,
So-
well, that's all right.
Yeah.
We got that much time to
Is
go
it
mom
fair-
around.
Fair statement then that the city would work with the new owner on a potential
Yes.
two-year lease agreement, 3-year lease agreement?
Well, let's see what they come
See
up
what come
with.
with.
Yeah, let's see what they
Table
come
it
up
right
with.
now, I'd say, then,
We just won't take any action till you come back.
yeah, that way everybody will be on the
That
same
sounds
page.
like no action, just let them work it out first.
Yeah, then we know where we're at, then we can make some decisions.
All right,
Very good, thank you. Okay, we gotta pay Grumman Hicks, estimate number 19.
Yeah, but we gotta go through this on, because the bulk of this pay estimate is early release of retainage. So, we had retainage of $260-some thousand, something like that. State law basically allows them, now that they're getting very close to the end, when they're more than 98%, they can request this early release of retainage, so that the city retains a value that is equal to 2 times the amount of the remaining work. So this is something that by code they're allowable to get. What has to happen is that the city and the city through our engineer and the contractor need to agree on the value of the work remaining. So if you take a look at page 17, this is what the engineer and Grundman Hicks then agree to as the amount of the value of work remaining. There's those 8 things that they still have to do. And of course, this pays for the installation of these items primarily. We've already paid to purchase them. Like all of the air piping system and that type of stuff, any of the equipment's already been purchased. So this is basically labor cost. But the engineer did not agree with their initial assessment about what the cost would be on items 1 and 2, about tying in the manholes and the boring. So the tying in the manhole, the big one there is at the existing sewer treatment plant, where they make the connection for the waste to actually be diverted to the lagoon. They had estimated 2,000, and the engineer had estimated 7,000. Grundman Hicks does agree on 7,000. 2 is the boring, and this is the boring of the highway there at TCT Trucking. And again, they disagreed initially on the value, but they do agree now the value there at 12.5. Then the remaining work, air piping, starting up the plant, miscellaneous dirt work. There's quite a little bit of dirt work to remain. Fencing, again, they purchased the fencing, so this is the installation. Seating, and then they have to clean all of the pipes also, so that's a little bit of an undertaking for them to get that all cleaned up before we fire up the system. The engineer and the contractor agree on total amount of remaining work then at $65,500. So we would retain 2 times that, $131,000 is what would be retained. So when you look at the pay estimate then on the following page, total pay estimate here is $186,000, because there is $20-some thousand worth of work that we would be paying for there. Also paying for basically electrical and HVAC work. $23,000 worth. The action for the council tonight would be to approve the pay estimate.
How long does it take for them to do some of that boring under the road and stuff? If they're- Got any ideas what that all entails then or not?
You got existing utilities you gotta work around.
Okay.
Well, they usually do go under that stuff then, is that what they do, or, like
It's all-
existing, or, do they go down under it, or?
I don't know what the depth is you're going through there, Scott, at that.
I know they had discussed that
Oh.
they would be deeper.
Is that on grade? I mean, they have to lay it at grade?
Well, no, because the sewer's still coming from that force main. To get it is pumped across the highway before it gets to the ground.
Hmm.
Gives it a shove. How do they clean pipes? I guess I'm just kinda curious about that.
Really big version of what Bill's got, you know.
Like Pete Howe's got?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Flush them?
Yeah.
They flush them and vacuum them out too. Of course, they're all full of mud and stuff, so they'll get vacuumed out.
Hmm.
Do they have manholes out in the field that are marked so that you know where they're at?
I'm assuming GPS, yeah, they're buried like 5-6 foot deep too.
Yeah, because we can't find the ones at the south side of the lake, right?
They're out in the middle, or 200 feet out in that field.
There was one they never could find yet.
We got one by, in Graham Hogue's field, right kitty corner across from Dina Hogue, and we can't even get the lid open on it. Rusted shut.
Good.
You know, we beat on with the sledgehammer.
Yeah.
Well.
Hmm.
What's included in that 1.3 seating? What else is included in that line, Scott?
That's just it, you know, that is the amount specifically payable to the seating contractor.
Well, how can it be 84% completed?
Because during the course of the project, you know, when they had to do a bunch of temporary seating out there too. If it was ever gonna sit for 2 weeks or something like that, they were supposed to have seeded. And again, they bought the product, you know, so we paid for the product, that would be the main thing.
I don't know. That is nothing but mud out there. I don't see where there could be any seeding done at all. And I wouldn't think the purchase of the seeding would be 84%.
Okay, I guess I couldn't speak.
I question that.
Scott, do they have everybody else paid on this deal yet?
Yes, so everybody who had submitted pay to be paid like during January, all of the suppliers and all the subs and everybody that we know of was paid. So I got a call today from Hancock, and Hancock Corporate had called and said they'll be submitting bills through the bond company now.
And 1.6 of fencing, it's $35,000. It's 0% completed. But up there, they've got $20,000.
Again, we bought the material. We do have the material here.
Okay. all right.
Or I don't know if it's here, but Brendan Hicks does have the materials. We've talked about that.
So who do they get, like Fort Dodge fencing or something like that?
I'm not sure, I was gonna tell you the guys from Granville, but I think that's the Cedar, is from Granville. But, yeah, they have a special,
Yeah.
fence sighting company
So you're positive the fencing's been purchased? Do you know that to be a fact?
yeah, because everything off of that second page on 19, you know, before it had numbers there, and everything's gone now.
Do they have the fencing up there where's the fencing at?
I don't know,
I don't see any out there.
because it's like that UV system and stuff, they have it at their facility.
Well, I think we should ask.
I
I know you're
But
certain, but I'm not certain.
But we do certainly pay our engineers and their inspectors for that too, Vicki, because, you know, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just don't wanna see the council get in the same predicament that happened before. Of the subs not being paid.
Yeah,
And the landowners, have the landowners been paid?
yeah, that's all addressed.
But it's a recommendation of the engineer to pay this.
Yes, yes.
Well, that's what we pay him for. Too much. Well, do we have a motion to pay estimate 19?
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second it.
roll call.
Thank you.
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
City administrator report.
Thank you.
You didn't want to.
Yeah, not too much. Still working with the DNR on this Terrell rain garden, and we still need their approvals on the plans, but you keep talking with them, and they assure me that there's no problems with it, and that everything is coming together. We just don't have that approval. So we keep hounding them as far as getting that approval to get them done. Because that's the contracts, we gotta be in those contracts with the rain garden and the fish barrier by March and April. We gotta be under contract with that so we can amend our SRF loan before the due date. Other than that, just 812 High Street, we had gone to court about that property, that's that Weber property. And anyway, the city will end up acquiring title to that property. And there's an appeal period here that we would wait this 30-day appeal period. But other than that, there's a resolution ready to go that the city would pass to acquire that property.
What's the 30 days? What day is that?
Just, so the action was on last Friday. Well, excuse me, the previous Friday. Yeah,
Okay.
whatever, that's 24th.
Yeah.
So we're anticipating council action on the first meeting in March.
Alright.
But you wanted to discuss that a little bit, the first meeting in March. There's also a Mayor will be at a tourism conference that night. I think they do a legislative night that night, which we've tried to go to. So we may want to look at postponing that, whether we postpone it a week or a couple days. We'll talk more as we get a little closer there.
Yeah.
So which one's that in February then?
First meeting in March.
Oh. Won't matter. Monday's pretty free.
Okay. We're gonna put an ad in the newspaper then about summer staffing, and you'll see that ad come out then next week. Taking applications.
Is it?
I think that's it, other than just a reminder, I'm taking vacation from the 20th to the 25th.
Good time. Motion to adjourn,
I'll make that motion.
second,
I'll second it.
meeting adjourned.